And to discuss that question itself, we are now being joined by Ambassador Anil Trigoniath, former Indian diplomat and distinguished fellow, and Colin Strong-Yukeet, foreign affairs and security strategist at University of Malaya. Thank you so much to both of you for joining us on the broadcast. I would really want to go to Ambassador first. Now, former Commerce Secretary Gina Raimondo has criticized President Trump's approach to India, suggesting it alienates key allies. How do you respond to these concerns?
Well, I think that during President Trump's second presidency, although it is also an extension of his first presidency, where he liked the tariff as the most important tool in his kit, but the way it is being used and the kind of language that is being used, all basically for the friends, for the enemies, for the frenemies, what Gina Raimondo said is absolutely correct, in fact. I mean, one of the case in point is today he's in Japan and he'll be hoping to sign this deal, trade deal with them. But the way the Japanese were humiliated led to the resignation of their former prime minister. Now, this is a kind of situation that has happened to a large number of countries who are just do not know, because today you might agree to something and the next day you go back. So there's no consistency in the approach. President Trump appears to feel, or because of his MAGA constituency or his beliefs, that the whole world is cheating them. I mean, that is something, this is how has America retained its edge, is also because of the kind of relationships that he has, the trading relationship. USA is a major leader, but today, by virtue of his policies, I think that there are greater polarization that is taking place. And the countries are beginning to understand that they cannot continue on the same path of appeasing them. Many countries don't have a choice, and they will continue to do so and pander to it, whether it is with regard to his Nobel Peace intentions or whether with regard to his own perception, that thinking that these kind of tariffs are eventually going to be helpful. It is a double-edged weapon, which is going to have a bigger impact on the American people themselves. Today, if you see the news, that the United States in 100 years is stuck in this very huge debt trap. And the Chinese are catching up very fast. He's going to meet the President Xi Jinping, but he has seen that how China has responded to various overtures that he has made. So that's where he's trying to negotiate with them some kind of a deal, because that also hurts him. But countries like India, which have had a global comprehensive strategic partnership, the way they have gone about, while India was the first country to start negotiations, and suddenly midway, he changes course. On the one hand, he meets President Putin in Alaska. On the other hand, he decides that India should be imposed 25% duties because it's importing oil from there. So if those kind of policies, the most powerful country in the world and the leader takes, then it is extremely difficult to have any kind of a confidence in that relationship.
Absolutely, and I'll take that point and I will really go to you, Mr. Yates. Now, that's a very interesting point he raised, of course, as a superpower. But we also have seen, you're joining us from Kuala Lumpur, that's where Trump was hosted. How do you analyze these comments coming in, and how have you observed Trump's relation in Kuala Lumpur and with other countries during this trade war?
Yes, we've seen how Trump's presence in the ASEAN summit is a powerful symbolic message to the region that, it is not being isolated. U.S. is back in supporting the region in economic capacities as well as in defensive and security capacities to stand up against China. But of course, we have seen how a lot of these different narratives, perceptions about the negative implications of Trump's policies. America first has never meant America alone. It means America strong enough to lead, fair enough to demand respect, and bold enough to defend its people and partners. So Trump didn't weaken allies or alliances; he woke them up simply because of the fact that for decades now, America carried this burden of of maintaining global peace and stability, while many other allies enjoyed these benefits without clear reciprocal incentives of their own to also support the US in that way. So Trump simply said no more free rides. So that's leadership, no isolation. So under his pressure, we can see that NATO has finally started to pay more in defending its own defensive interests in Europe. So he didn't start trade wars. He was ending economic surrender. So his tariffs and tough negotiations corrected years of exploitation. So we have seen how also through these policies, not only he has saved American jobs and workers, and he has brought back manufacturing jobs and firms to the US, but also, most importantly, he has also saved these countries, these allies, to ensure that they are not fully dependent on other countries, especially China. We have also seen how the might of the American hard power capacity in terms of providing these security assurances to these allies to ensure that they are able to defend themselves and to ensure that the sanctity of the international law and the maritime law are met and respected by all powers, especially by China. So I would say that this is a wake-up call, and rightly so. For decades now, other powers have been exploiting the US in a totally unfair manner, and this is only right for President Trump to correct this, to reset this, but on terms that will be mutually beneficial not only to the US but also to other allies. We have also seen how during the first term, President Trump has also elevated the ties with India. We have seen how the US has also advanced defense partnership with India, more than 20 billion US dollars in terms of defense partnership, has also founded or advanced the capacity of port. And this is, in terms of a holistic approach in perspective, it can't be seen from this tight, narrow or viewpoint in terms of tariff alone. But, of course, the Ukraine conflict has compelled him in some ways to compel or to push India to do more in terms of, putting this pressure on Putin, and of course to reduce or to stop the purchase of oil from Russia. But beyond this, and in the larger picture, in the long-term picture of this, in a further escalation or further potential conflict with Beijing,
right?
Washington's role, Washington's defense or security deterrence has been always the more important factor to consider with regards to this partnership with India.
I get your point, but then also when you talk about America first and the Americans, we also have reports where there's joblessness, and of course we need to look at that data as well. But I do take your point there. But also I'd like to come back to Ambassador Sir. Of course, what I'm going to take his point as well. When we look at ASEAN, and we know that these tariffs did happen, and Brazil was one of the countries where this tariff, 50% tariff was. But when we look at this ASEAN summit, we see that there was some kind of negotiation, what we saw between Brazil and U.S. Considering that, do you think that could also happen with India? How do you look at that?
Well, we are continuing to discuss this trade deal, but I always like to say that given the past 10 months record, that this trade deal may have some meaning or may not have any meaning whatsoever. And I agree with my esteemed colleague here that this is not the only relationship. The US-India relationship is global, comprehensive, strategic partnership, and it is to expand. It's very, very far-reaching and very important and has a strategic pivot to it. So there is absolutely no doubt about it. But the fact remains is that any relationship, if it has to succeed, there it is to be driven by 3M's approach, which India propagates, and that is mutual respect, mutual interests, and mutual sensitivities. So when you are my global comprehensive strategic partner, and when I am discussing something with you in good faith, and you continue to talk about red lines and then suddenly withdraw from the talks, then it does not convey a very good meaning. I mean, irrespective of whatever relationship you have. So that does not happen. This is the truth with nearly every country. So I believe that we will continue to face these hurdles and challenges. But it is not for the other world, because US still is the sole hyperpower. It is the biggest economy, the most militarily strong power. So it has to play an international role. But any role that it intends to play in a unilateral manner, which has totally undermined the so-called global trading and liberal order in a much faster way. We have seen how he walked out twice out of the Paris Agreement. Now, those are, I don't know if that can be justified by any other MAGA or any other issues, because global challenges need to be fought globally. I mean, going ahead with Pakistan for whatever reason is a state that is sponsoring terrorism, and the United States knows it. And in fact, they are the ones who also blacklisted the same organization, TRF, which had attacked the Pahalgam and carried out those heinous terror attacks. So what does it say? It says that there is a hypocrisy, a double standard. I mean, you impose 25% on India, and at the same time, China, which is the largest importer,
Right.
European Union, which is the largest importer of the hydrocarbons from Russia, they continue to have. United States itself is doing billions of dollars in trade with Russia. And as we are talking, their teams are discussing how to open up the Russian market once again. Now, those are the kind of things we have to take a holistic picture. And that's what India does. And I'm quite sure that we're negotiating. But as the Commerce Minister says, the Prime Minister says, USA is a very important strategic partner for us, but at the same time, not at the cost of our own dignity.
Absolutely, and that's of course I really want to go to Mr. Keith now. That's a very strong point that Ambassador has put. That yes, of course, when it comes to, for example, Russian oil, somehow India was targeted, and when we look at China, somehow we do see that Trump is taking a soft spot. How do you analyze this? Why would Trump look for something or discriminate between China when China is, of course, one of the countries taking same amount of oil, and even European countries, as stated by Ambassador?
Well, not necessarily so. We have yet to see the full, details of the upcoming talks with President Xi, and of course, also China has always been, at the forefront in terms of how Washington views the future of the security of the Indo-Pacific. And of course, India's role has been pertinent for the past many years now, especially under Trump. So of course, to equate the notion that Trump is going soft on China at the expense of India, I don't think that's a valid argument. We have seen how Trump has given a very strong message through his actions and policies of consolidating allies in the region with his visit to ASEAN. Of course, also in visits to Japan and South Korea, and this also decision to maintain the AUKUS partnership with Australia, despite the cost and of course other considerations. So we have seen that China has always been the single biggest priority for Trump. He knows best what will be the Chinese threats, and he knows best the impact and the importance of India to Washington. So I don't see that to be a zero-sum game, and in the foreseeable next couple of years now, we'll have a clearer picture, but I don't see that happening at the expense of India.
All right. Well, point taken. Of course, we'll have to, again, leave it to the future. These talks that's going to happen both between Trump and Xi, and of course, if we do see some talks between India and U.S. as well. But thank you so much to Ambassador Anil Trikundiyat, former Indian diplomat, and also our foreign affairs and security strategist, Colin Chong Yu Keat, for joining us on the broadcast and giving your perspective.
Thank you.